Judging off of the market's reaction, this news caught everyone off guard. This candle alone was a 0.3% drop, a 30-point drop on this news. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and members of the Israeli War Cabinet are currently in a bomb shelter underneath Tel Aviv due to the ongoing rocket attack on the city. Here in this video, we have all of the news you need to know for the markets and Tesla stock today. And let me tell you, there is a lot of news out there, especially with Tesla. But one of the more surprising things today is that stocks are generally speaking doing pretty well today, and bond yields are soaring. There's really no rhyme or reason to this market right now. On top of looking at your broad market news, your Tesla stock news, we're also going to get into some of the option activity for Tesla stock today and see how institutional investors are positioning their Tesla positions ahead of Tesla earnings. Before we get started, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with everything going on every single day with Tesla stock as well as the broader markets. We keep you informed and up to speed. And after all, it is free 99. Let's start with some of your biggest events for the markets today. And you have this news coming out about 30 minutes ago. Biden and Harris briefed by National Security Team Monday on Israel's war with Hamas. Blinken reiterates U.S. support as Israeli Defense Minister warns of a long war. Quote, "The price will be high, but we are going to win for Israel and the Jewish people and the values that both countries believe in." Janet Yellen says it is too early to speculate on how this WAR will affect the global economy. Iran has now accused the U.S. of military involvement in the Israel-Hamas war. They say, quote, "We believe the U.S. is militarily involved in this WAR right now," because they said that they would send an aircraft carrier to the region, and they also sent a second aircraft carrier. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Kanani said in a Google translated comments reported by Iran's state-owned Islamic Republic news agency. This is probably the biggest piece of this developing story. Israel has evacuated several settlements near the Lebanese border. The evacuation would involve 28 communities and will be overseen by the heads of local municipalities. The order comes after Israel last week exchanged fire on multiple occasions with Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, which has stated its readiness to intervene in Israel's conflict with the Palestinian militant group Hamas. For anyone that is a little bit less informed or educated on this topic, why this is important, well, if it does spread, this could cause a 20, 30, 40% move downwards in our markets. This is by far the biggest single catalyst that could cause the markets to crash. And it really comes down to energy. The Strait of Hormuz does control 20 to 30% of the world's oil supply. If there were to be a larger conflict, well, that would almost certainly be restricted, and that could have dramatic effects on the price of energy at the pump, thus leading you into a recession pretty quickly. Imagine if you had $15, $20 gallons of gas. How long could you pay that? Probably not very long. Maybe that's the wrong question to ask, because you guys, if you're watching this video, are probably in a better financial situation than a lot of other people. But generally speaking, looking at the broader US population, that would basically halt the economy. It does look like explosions are now being reported within the last few minutes near the town of Metula in northern Israel. Residents are being asked to shelter in place until further notice. And explosions are now being reported in the Syrian capital of Damascus. Possible Israeli airstrikes are ongoing. Israeli artillery has opened fire on southern Lebanon. Let's now get into what in the world is happening in the broader markets today. On Friday, investors bought bonds in a fear move with this Israeli conflict. The thought of it escalating is driving some people towards risky assets. Today, not so much. Today, they're back to selling the bonds, driving yields dramatically higher. 30-year Treasury yields are up almost 9 basis points today, while your 10-year Treasury yields are up about 8 basis points today. The recent correlation that we have seen in the markets, when yields are higher, stocks are lower. That's not happening today. So that is a great sign if you are a bull, but I don't think this situation is even close to being over. Gold, on the other hand, was up about 3.21% on Friday. A really big fear move Friday. Well, today, gold is down about 0.5%. Friday's move higher in gold was the highest move in gold in a single day since March 23rd and March 24th of 2020 during the lows of the markets. That was almost 4 years ago. So gold is telling you a different story here. It's saying, hey, some of the fears have died down, but you're not seeing a big fall in gold today. It's not confirming what we're seeing in the bond market. So someone's right here and someone's wrong. Either gold is right with the fear move or bonds are right with the risk on move. USO is down almost 1% today also. That is a good thing. As tensions do rise, you're probably going to see oil go higher. So today, you're not seeing that. I would call that good news. Markets today are up about 1% across the board. Tesla stock at the time of recording this video is pretty much following the markets, up almost 1% also. Daniel Ives, Wedbush analyst, maintains his buy rating on Tesla with a $350 price target, but analyst Alexander Potter from Piper Sandler did lower his price target from $300 previously down to $290 and maintains a buy rating on Tesla shares. We are getting more insight on potentially some of the questions that will be asked on Tesla's earnings call. And some of these questions could be big movers for Tesla stock. If you guys have seen any of the other videos I've put out over the past couple of days, you know EPS doesn't matter, margins don't matter, revenue doesn't matter, free cash flow does not matter as long as they come almost in line with expectations, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, doesn't matter. If you do see a big downward move in margins or big downward move in free cash flow, something along those lines, the markets would not exactly like that. But the thing that's really going to move Tesla stock is the forward-looking guidance. So at the time of this post from Sawyer Merritt, 4,540 Tesla investors have voted, representing a combined 1.7 billion worth of shares. And this question in particular is one that I really like. The most popular question here. And it reads, how many Cybertruck deliveries do you anticipate for 2024? That is straight to the money. That is exactly the question that I want to hear answered on the conference call. That is the number one most voted question. So hopefully that one is asked. That's going to be a big mover for Tesla stock. Second highest voted question. When do you expect Model 3 Highland to be available in the US? 2.7 million Tesla shares represented for that question. I should say the top question, how many Cybertruck deliveries do you anticipate for 2024? That has about 3.1 million Tesla shares that did vote for it. Third question, can you provide a progress update on the 4680 cell, particularly progress towards performance improvements and cost savings outlined on Battery Day? 2.5 million Tesla shares are represented there. Fourth question, could you please provide an update on capacity expansion plans for the company's factories in Berlin and Austin? And two, the opening schedule for Gigafactory Mexico. 2.4 million Tesla shares are represented in that question. That's another juicy one. Fifth question, why was the price dropped on FSD if it is getting better and robotaxi is expected so soon? 2.1 million Tesla shares are represented there. Sixth question, Mercedes is accepting legal liability for when its level 3 autonomous driving system Drive Pilot is active. Is Tesla planning to accept legal liability for FSD? And if so, when? That is another important question. Hopefully that will, be answered. And obviously, robotaxi is still down the line, maybe a year or two, I would imagine, until we have robotaxis everywhere. But still, that's something investors would probably find a lot of solidarity in hearing the answer to. And the seventh most represented question from retail investors or from institutional investors, from everyone that is voting on these questions. Current sell-side consensus assumes that Tesla will deliver 2.3 million vehicles in 2024, representing 28% growth versus 2023 guidance. Is this growth rate achievable without any mass market launches in 2024? And when does Tesla expect to return to its 50% long-term compound annual growth rate? The thing that really stands out to me is this growth rate achievable without any mass market launches in 2024? This first question, hopefully we get the answer to that. Cybertruck, that could be a mass market product. We need to see what the production capacity is like. If Tesla says they could produce 5,000 or so Cybertrucks a week in 2024, that would be about 250,000 deliveries in 2024. That's a pretty mass market product, if I were to say so myself. For context here, in 2022, GM sold 241,522 Sierra trucks. So that would be in line with what you're seeing from a GM. The best-selling truck, the Chevrolet Silverado, sold 513,000 units last year. So still, something in the range of 200 to 250,000 would be a really good number for Tesla shareholders. And that would probably send Tesla stock up about 20% or so following earnings. In other pretty exciting breaking news, Tesla is going to launch in South America. Tesla has posted a job opening for a general manager position located in Chile. Quote, identify, develop, and execute activities to launch and develop the market, create a customer base, and grow market share while delivering an exceptional ownership experience. It looks like there is a new cyber quad available in Europe for 1,990 euros. Ford lays off more workers due to the ongoing UAW strike. It looks like about 1,920 employees as of last week and now have been laid off. Motor Trend has released their full new Model 3 review. Quote, the new Model 3 fixes nearly everything we hated about the old car, even if it's not perfect. Tesla's new controls all work well enough that we don't have much to complain about. You do notice a solid thunk of the door closing when you first get in the car, not the tiny hollow noise of the Toyota, but the way an actual luxury car door sounds. Solid. And Motor Trend has released new images of the Model 3 Highland, looking absolutely stunning, especially that frunk. You could do some things with that frunk. It looks pretty deep, if I were to say so myself. I believe it's a little bit deeper than the original Model 3 frunk. Tesla China files new Model Y with radar support option. Tesla's filed a new Model 3 in China as per recent regulatory filings from the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, MIIT. Interestingly enough, the new Model 3 in the filing is listed with radar as an option. China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, recently released its catalog of models that are up for public comment. Cruise robotaxis have upgraded their software after a fire truck crash in San Francisco. GM's driverless taxi business says its vehicles are now better equipped to deal with emergency vehicles and hopefully wet concrete. According to Reuters, the UAW strike could upend GM and Ford financial strategies. Quote, reduction in capital spending, delayed EV targets, greater sharing of cost, and other charges to the corporate portfolio could be on the horizon, Morgan Stanley analyst Adam Jonas told clients in a note. Check this out. A con man who scammed Tesla out of 5 EVs gets 4 years in prison. He exploited a loophole in the automaker's online ordering system. These vehicles accounted for about $560,000. It looks like a new Tesla battery has been installed at SLO water treatment plant. Joe Tetmeyer is showing us new images from Giga Texas, where it looks like you have about 9 Cybertrucks. Presumably, these are ones that could actually be delivered. Maybe not this one, considering it's the only one without a wrap on it, but it looks like we're starting to get more final products heading off the assembly line. As Sawyer Merritt says, hoping we can get a Cybertruck delivery event date during earnings this Wednesday. And that's what I'm hoping for as well. Here is what Piper Sandler analyst Alexander Potter just said about Tesla, and he lowered his price target from 300 down to 290. He did reiterate again his overweight rating. He says, quote, Cybertruck and other growth initiatives are on the horizon, and there's a reasonable likelihood that margins will bottom in Q3. But still, we wouldn't be surprised if Tesla trades sideways at best in the coming months. You guys need to remember, this is actually exactly what you want to see heading into Tesla earnings. You want expectations to go lower so Tesla can blow everyone's minds with good news. That's obviously the wishful hope here, wishful thinking. You want lower expectations. You don't want a bunch of price target increases. You don't want a lot of bulls coming out before a stock reports earnings. It makes it a lot harder to impress investors. It really means that more is expected out of Tesla. The less that is expected, the higher or more likely chance you are or have to beat those expectations and get a large upside move. And again, the upside move or not really comes down to the Cybertruck, in my opinion, as well as Morgan Stanley's opinion. If we get a definitive date for the Cybertruck, that probably sends Tesla stock up in the range of 5 to 10%, regardless of what the numbers look like for Tesla earnings. The risk here is if we don't get any information about the Cybertruck, if they are closed-lipped on the earnings call, then Tesla stock probably falls 5 to 10% the day after earnings. On the best case scenario, if we were to get production guidelines for 2022, delivery estimates for 2022, Tesla stock could probably go up, like I said before, 10 to 20% the day after earnings. That would be this Thursday. And that would push Tesla stock over $300 per share. The big level you really need to be watching for when it comes down to Tesla is about that 265 level. You have seen this resistance level that connects the peaks of 5 rallies now. It sits at about $265. If you break out above that, that's where the short sellers are probably going to feel a little bit more panic. We'll just call it that, especially if the expectations for 2024 get much better. You could likely see some shorts covering on short positions, probably a lot of buying from retail investors as well as hedge funds and institutions that overall are pretty underweight on Tesla. Tesla is by far the most under-owned big tech stock out there. The guys that make the money when Tesla goes higher, it's not big money, it's not hedge funds, institutions, it's retail investors. We're the ones that mainly own the shares. Tesla's stock today bounced pretty perfectly right at about this 50 and 100-day moving average. Now you're back above those after briefly being under them in the beginning of trading, making your way higher. Tesla stock is currently up 1.64% at $255.24 per share. If earnings are bad or this Israeli conflict does get worse, then you want to watch that 240 level to the downside. That would be a theoretical move down of about $15 or so. If you break out under that, or break down under that, I should probably say, your next stop's that 200-day moving average, in my opinion, almost certainly. This uptrending line has connected the lows from January with the lows that we have seen ever since. It's a textbook bullish pattern we have going on now. If you break out to the upside, you're going to get a lot more bullish. If you break out to the downside, break down to the downside, then you could get quite bearish quickly. If you were to theoretically fall under that 200-day moving average, your next stop would be potentially as low as 150. I think the markets would be in a really, really bad place, though, if that were to actually happen. Tesla's MACD is pretty dang neutral, slightly in positive territory. It's at about a 1, so there's really nothing happening with the MACD. It doesn't show a clear direction either, up or down, bullish or bearish. The RSI as well is neutral at 49.71, almost as neutral as you can possibly be. If you look at the QQQ, then it's very clearly formed a long-term cup and handle formation. Cup and handles usually produce a positive return over the next 3 to 6 months or so. It obviously depends on the timeline here. This would be a cup and handle formation starting back in 2021. So a multi-year formation you're starting to see here. This looks like the handle. This U is obviously the cup. And about 70% of the time you do get an upside break. You really need to break out, which is now above about 371 to see this actually start to form that breakout. But you really want to break out above 387, your prior high of this cycle, to get that bigger upside move. And cup and handles can usually break you out to new highs if you're trading close to a new high already, in which we did trade close to a new high just back here in July. So all things considered, without this Israeli conflict, without any of the potential economic data or Fed speakers that could wreak havoc on our markets, the technicals themselves do look pretty good on the NASDAQ. But again, it's not too often you have pretty good technicals on the NASDAQ on a longer term basis. Again, the cup and handle, when you're faced with a major geopolitical shock event that could have big implications for the U.S. economy. Last but certainly not least, if we take a look at the option activity for Tesla stock, today you have seen 321 orders totaling $92.13 million with a positive order value of 52%. As you know, a lot of that activity in options comes in really in the last 30 minutes or so of trading, so we will have a more accurate update for you guys at 9 p.m. tonight like we always do. But so far, so good. So far, it does look quite positive. And if we blow up the bubble chart here and take a look at where the option activity is, you're seeing a lot of activity around the 270 call with 34,000 for volume today, 34,000 for volume at the 260 call, the 265 call seeing about 25,000 for volume. Even the 290 call is seeing about 15,000 for volume. These options do expire by this week. The put side, the 250 put is pretty active as well with about 33,000 for volume. But overall, it does look like the calls are still by far winning out here. And it looks like the volume today is about 62% calls and 38% put. So that puts a put to call ratio of 0.62 with a put to call ratio of open interest as 0.99. So it's pretty even as far as the open interest of the put to call ratio, but the put to call ratio today is very, very bullish. So that is just about going to do it for this video. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you made it to the end of this video. As well as that, like I said, stay tuned to the channel for that 9 p.m. video. We're going to be going over some economic data coming out tomorrow, a little bit more news on Tesla. Again, another update on this Israel conflict. You guys really want to be watching for your early morning developments. That's where a lot of news comes out overnight. So just one day, I mean, you're going to see this actual, incursion happen from Israel. And that's when there could be a little bit more retaliation, whether in the form of militarily or even with energy. Maybe just, again, restricting the flow of energy could have detrimental effects to the U.S. economy and to our market. So you guys want to keep this in mind. We will keep you informed of all of this and everything you need to know in regards to Tesla and the broader markets in each and every single one of these videos. If you guys also want to take it a step further, come support the channel, come get all of my trades in real time, come join the action over there in the trading community. Link down below in the description of this video. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.